Here we go. As you can see, my rating went below 1700 once again, but this is going to be the game that deserves to be seen, because I've played in the last few days, I've played a few games and my rating went down some, so that was unlucky. But in this game I was looking for getting over 1700 once again. Unfortunately, as you can see, there is already an open diagonal between me and red, and this can be very, very dangerous, because if red decides to exchange, then we both lose material. And when the opponent plays this, sometimes I only just push as well, or I don't push this pawn, because he says, okay, I'm not scared of you exchanging bishops, so I reply saying, okay, I'm not scared of you exchanging bishops as well. Unfortunately, in this case it was a mistake, because red decided to take. So I'm not gonna take with the king, but at the beginning of the game, if I push this pawn up and then I push this pawn up as well and fianchetto my bishop anyways, having this defensive setup, I found out that is often not really recommended. So I opted in this game, I opted for the move where I push as well, and I see, because he's never gonna be able to fianchetto his bishop then, and he would have to insert this move first, but he decided to exchange bishops, so that was unfortunate. And already you can see that red has a mindset where, since I'm the strongest guy here, the best thing for red would be to exchange as many pieces as possible and to make me as weak as possible, because if he wins against me, then he gets a lot of points. Here though, I went for this move. Usually I don't do this stuff, but because taking a pawn is not really necessary, and it can defend really easily by playing knight here, it can defend the rook. But in this case I had some options where I might even be able to target this pawn over here. So that's why I decided to take anyways. Now yellow plays that move, so defending the rook, and I make a mistake of not bringing the bishop back. If you have the possibility to bring your pieces back, you should do it as soon as you can, because as you can see now, I overlooked this possible move where he checks me, because my king was in such an awkward position, so I didn't expect this check. I completely missed it, and now my bishop is hanging. And as I've told you in some past videos, the thing you have to avoid, the most important thing you need to avoid is getting checked, especially from the guy on your left, because you are the guy on his right. So if red checks me, then blue has a move against me and yellow has a move against me as well. So in this case I already lost the bishop, the dark squared bishop. I lost it because I exchanged it with red, and I lost my light squared bishop now as well. So it started to be a very, very difficult game. It started off as a very difficult game to recover, because I really, really like bishops, and after just a few moves both of my bishops are gone. So I can't castle anymore, my rook is stuck over here, and my knights are in front of my pawns, and I can't really play my usual move, knight up and then knight here, because in any case I'm not gonna be castled, and also because there is the rook covering that square. So it's not really looking good at this time. So I'm already struggling, and I'm already thinking like, okay, I need to save this, I need to get at least second position and not lose too many points out of this game. So as you can see, red is doing fine. He is actually gaining tempi against the yellow's queen, and yellow is a little bit open on this side, so that could cause problems for him, especially because his rook is hanging. And blue is doing quite a good job actually. If it wasn't for the bishop exchange that I did with yellow, then it would be completely fine and pushing for the center for new queen, so that's really good for him. Still, red has this idea of developing pieces, gaining tempi against yellow, so that's good for him. And something I was looking for at this point, and the only chance I have at this point, is to steal a checkmate from somewhere. So my idea was to play the queen here, and then somehow get rid of this pawn and have some chances against the blue king to checkmate. The game is gonna be very intense, so even if I lost many of my pieces, this is what you could do if you find yourself short of pieces and way behind in development, way behind in material, way behind in chances to checkmate the opponents. So red is still being solid and not really developing much, but attacking this queen again and again. And unfortunately I missed this move because now yellow comes into my defense, or is targeting me now, and this pawn has to be defended somehow, and I don't know if I have a good way to defend that. I decided to play this hoping that he wouldn't take with the queen, because if he does take with the queen, I'm not gonna take with the rook, because I don't want to exchange my rook that is worth 5 points for the queen. So ideally I would like to take the queen for free. So, but here actually yellow is pretty much forced to take with the queen, so he does that. So I wasn't really feeling good about this game, because as you can see I'm not doing great. Out of the opening I'm the worst player right now. Red is doing very nicely. Yeah, he's well defended. As you can see also the knights are in a similar structure as the one I like. The rook is a bit stuck in the corner, but I can always push the pawn and free up the rook, and this is a gift for me. It's incredible. I didn't expect this move at all because I didn't see it. And with this check now I can take the queen. I don't know, wait, I can't take it now with the rook and be free, but I can take with the pawn because I just attacked the queen with the pawn. So as you can see, this is excellent for me. I mean, the check played really well in my hands, also because now this pawn can be pushed and it's not really easy to stop it, and I could even almost think about promoting, so that's pretty nice. And now I can take a pawn with check. Yeah, so I'm already thinking about the possibility of checkmating yellow somehow already. Maybe I missed some checkmates. Plus I checked and this rook is hanging and this knight is hanging too, so yellow needs to do something, and here blue plays a very weird move defending yellow from check. So now yellow can use his move to defend the rook, and I think that's what it did actually. Yes, he moves the queen to defend the rook, but in any case I can take this knight over here from blue. So this was a very weird move from blue. He didn't need to play this. And as I said before, now red wants to activate his rook, and he uses this time especially because my queen is a little bit undefended and committed into the attack. So I need to actually be careful here, because it is very possible that someone like blue could play something like this, rook here. Luckily blue had to defend the knight, but blue could have moved the rook here. Then I have to defend the queen, and then this pawn is dropping too, and my king is completely open. So now I wasn't decided between taking with the knight or taking with the pawn. But if I take with the knight, my pawns are not connected, and my knight is not really defending any of my squares over here. So I decided to take with the pawn, just because my knight over here could defend these squares, keep defending these squares, and I have some sort of pawn structure going on still. And my rook is open, so red always has to be careful about hanging pieces on this file. And now my priority right now is to get my queen to safety once again, because it's too exposed over there. So right now I'm kind of satisfied with how I've managed to gain some points even if I'm behind on material. So right now what I was thinking is I have to get as many points as possible, because I'm never gonna win this game, because there is always gonna be someone that is stronger than me. So let's get as many points as possible. Let's get as many checks, as many points, so that I can get around 30 points and get second place, hopefully. The main difference between me and someone else over here, for example blue or red, is the pawn structure. As you can see, my pawns are very defensive in a sense, but not really actually defended, while red and blue have a way better pawn structure because they're way closer to the center and they can get queens more easily, right? So that's why I think I'm way behind, because they have a better pawn structure, and it's really useful, especially when you approach the middle game and end game. Pawns become essential. Pawns are super important because they can get promoted very easily. And now here, yellow almost forces me to exchange, because if I don't exchange, then he's gonna take. But it's always not recommended to let an opponent have the chance to take one of your pieces, because if I retreat my queen, for example, and my rook is still here, then red could do something against me. He could, for example, attack one of my knights, okay? Or blue could also attack me, or for example, attack my queen, or I don't know. And if then yellow has the chance to take, then all the other people have tempi against me. So what you should try to do is never give the opponents chance to exchange pieces, even sacrificing pieces for your own pieces. So, for example, here, I'm not really confident because this rook can always take at some point. So, if yellow was able to take, or if red would have taken, then yellow could have taken as well my rook, and I would have lost material. So that's why you should always keep your pieces in places where they cannot even be taken. The thing is that right now in my game here, I have greater problems than losing one knight. The king defense is really not ideal. So I'm not really caring about possibilities of for red to sacrifice material. I'm just thinking about myself and thinking about defending my king. And as you can see, what I'm trying to do now is forget about the material, for example the pawn, and not try to defend, but try to be as defensive as possible. So if the opponents start to create weaknesses in each other and don't see any weaknesses in my defense, then they're gonna attack each other. So this is what you can do in your games if you find yourself in a worst position. So what you should do is be as passive as possible and as defensive as possible. For example, here I'm never gonna exchange queens, and knowing how red behaved in the past, I don't want to exchange. So the best thing for me would be to move something in the middle, like the rook. Wouldn't be a bad idea, I think, to move the rook in the middle. The only problem about moving the rook in the middle is that I don't have any control on this file anymore, and the rook will be pinned, so that's why I prefer to move the queen away. Also because it's defending this pawn a little bit. And yes, I could also move my queen here, for example, or here, to a more aggressive square, so that I can always go in and check yellow if I wanted. But the problem is I want to be more safe and more stable. So now I push the pawn because I actually thought I had a good chance of promoting. Because if yellow is distracted, for example, if blue keeps checking like this, for example, or even sacrificing the rook here and then taking the pawn with the queen defended by the knight, that would be an interesting move, and would also maybe give me the chance to push my pawn up. So if, for example, blue pushed here and check, then I can push as well, and blue is not going to take because it's defended by yellow, and yellow is not going to take because if he takes, then blue can take because the knight is pinned. So I was hoping to get some kind of queen out of nowhere, but it didn't work out. It was turning out to be a disgraceful game. It's just trying to limit the damage. And as you can see, red has something against me, keeps playing moves against me and gaining tempi against me and exchanging stuff with me, wanting to exchange stuff with me. So it's clear that he's actually playing for the points. He wants to target me because if he wins against me, he's gonna get rating points. The good news about the position right now is that my defense is kind of holding on, and yellow is doing really badly indeed because yellow is really exposed. So something you have to keep in mind is that if the opponent on your side is not doing well, then you're probably doing actually better than you think, because right now yellow is in trouble, so he's likely to get checkmated soon. and the next target for blue will not be me, it will be red, because it's gonna be closer. So there's some good aspects about the position right now. And what I wanted to do now is to release some tension over here, because this knight was really annoying because it was controlling this square that was attacked also by the queen. So what I wanted to do is that get rid of the knight and maybe block the position over here with the pawns, for example, and stuff like that. As you can see here, blue is targeting yellow, and the good thing for blue is that me and red are fighting against each other. So blue has all the time and all the safety to attack yellow with all his pieces, and that's exactly what happens. He's checkmated, so now he's at 32 points. Surprisingly for me, because usually I don't play this way, I have 20 points already. Usually I have way less points at this stage of the game, but as you can remember, I exchanged pieces, I exchanged a lot of pieces, I tried to get as many pieces as possible, so that's why I'm still fine so far, because if I can get a checkmate out of nowhere, then I'm doing pretty well. The problem is getting a checkmate out of nowhere, because it looks impossible right now. But as you can see, I haven't done much in these last moves. The pawn structure is still the same because it's kind of solid, and my rook is basically stuck here, so I can't move it very far. And I don't want to move my king in squares where I can be checked. And yeah, my queen has been here defending the pawns and trying to actually prevent also checks of queens and rooks coming down to here. So I don't want to move my queen up because I don't want to allow any kind of checks on my back rank. Even if it's not checkmate, it's just check. It's really, really dangerous. And here it looks like red decided to push the pawn, and as you can see, he played this move clearly because he wants to push the pawn up and promote. And right now I have two problems. I have the knight not doing anything and the pawn was hanging, so I found this move that was, I think, helpful, because I'm attacking the red rook and I'm defending the pawn with the queen. So that looked pretty good to me, and it's still a very solid position. And somehow red didn't care about the rook, so I went on with the mindset of gaining as many points as possible, and it's not working too badly, because right now I overtook yellow. Yellow is never gonna make any more points, so at least I'm gonna be third. So at least I'm not losing like 100 points, I'm losing 50 points, let's say. And the thing is that red is also way behind on points, more than 10 points behind. So looking at the positives, it's not looking like a disaster. For sure, it's not one of my best games. I think it was a little bit out of my control because my opponents, especially red, was exchanging pieces, but yeah, it happens sometimes. This is part of the game. I mean, I think the behavior red had against me was perfectly understandable, because I do as well attack the strongest guy because it's the best way to get points, so makes sense. It's part of the game. So, and as I said before, now blue is somehow attacking red because it's closer, it's on his side. It's very hard for blue to attack me because I'm on the opposite side of the board, so while red is way closer. So that's why I'm also bringing my queen closer to red, because I feel like there could be a chance here. Red is now trying to find defensive moves. I think he didn't want to have the rook available for exchanges. Maybe he wants to move the king away at some point. But as you can see here, the pressure is increasing on this pawn, attacked by 3 queens at this point, or defended by 1 and attacked by 2. So as you can see here, the red king is becoming more and more vulnerable. While, I bring the queen back just because I don't want to allow blue to check, so I want to look solid in their eyes. So red is determined to fight against both of us and just promote. And that would be an excellent plan, also because he has a lot of pawns here, so it looks pretty good. But what I'm thinking is just to leave the responsibility to stop red to blue. Let them fight each other. That's always good. Blue is now targeting this pawn that is at the base of this amazing pawn structure. And so far red is doing perfectly fine. He defends the pawn. And now blue, since can't make any improvements, he's starting to push himself and getting a queen. So that makes sense as well. The problem is that I can't do anything about it, or I can't do anything in general, because I push these 4 pawns here and I'm gonna be stuck and I'm gonna expose my king. And if I push this pawn here, it's just gonna be a suicide for the pawn. So I can't really do much. My queen has to defend the back rank and the rook is basically stuck. The rook is stuck over here. I can go up in reality, but not much else. And here, something that blue missed is that the queen is on pre-over here. So red promoted. Blue didn't want to take, because then takes. But blue didn't see that he had the queen as well on this point. So that was unlucky. And the thing is that now I gave blue another chance, because he pushed now. So I gave blue another chance to see this possible move. Also because he can't take back with the pawn because the queen is hanging now. So that would be an excellent move. Also taking with the rook would be completely fine. But blue misses it again, goes for the promotion. And red is gonna take the queen now. So as you can see, I really like my rook over here. And this king move is still very safe because no one can check me still. But it allows my queen to move as well. And as you can see here, red takes the queen. Makes a lot of sense. Blue promoted again, so he's fine. But red is doing a great job, I think. Now blue was a little bit shocked. He didn't know what to do. And I think now red still wants to promote. So sounds like a good plan to me. And it looks like blue doesn't really know what to do here, how to break through. So it's a very patient game because people don't really know what to do. The position is kind of messy because red is, his king is quite open, but it's somehow still very safe. And right here, blue misses another thing, that red is actually threatening to take over here. So now the rook is defending that square, but red, as you can see, his plan is to get a rook out of the way, and blue does take. It looks like an excellent move because it's pinning the queen and attacking the queen. So now it looks like red has to reply to this, but in reality red can take over here and check blue. But this is actually what I want, because I'm the weakest guy and so far they have 2 queens each, so if they fight each other it's perfect for me. And it's the best chance for me to get a checkmate out of nowhere. Unfortunately, I don't have any checking squares for blue because I can go over here with the queen, but it's defended by the knight. So I really hope blue would move the knight away so that I can give checks and stuff. And the thing is, now I'm expecting, as you can see, I'm expecting red to play over here and check again, so that I could push this pawn up and take the rook, and it's exactly what happens. Red checks again. Unfortunately it's blue to move now, so once I push, red would have to find a new square to check. So I do push, attacking the rook. And I have this checking square as well with the queen now, but it's still defended by the knight. But unfortunately I think red doesn't have any checking squares now. So he has to defend the queen now, right? Because what can he check? He can't check here, there's a knight. He can't check here, there's a rook. He can't check here, pawn, queen, queen, queen. So yeah, he plays this move. He's actually indirectly attacking my rook, but he did this just to defend the queen. So that was a very difficult move for red. And blue excellently found the right square to go with the king. It looks like the king is more exposed over here, but as you see, he realized there was no check over there. And now there is a problem. Now, as you can see, red can take the rook and check because the pawn is pinned by the queen. So that's somehow a mistake by me. But red was under pressure, and it's kind of hard to see these moves. instead of taking my rook and check, he took a pawn. So maybe though he didn't take, because then I would have had to go here with the king, and then blue could checkmate me. So that may be why. And now blue moved the knight away. So that's excellent for me, because now I can go in and check. And if I can convince red to go and check as well, then it's excellent. Because as you can see, we're now both attacking one person. That's the best chance for me to gain pieces. Unfortunately, once again, I can't take any piece because the knight is defended by the rook. I almost blundered and I almost took. So what I can do though to make blue not dangerous, I can keep checking. It is true though, red is getting material now, but my plan is to get as close as possible to the top step and then get a checkmate out of nowhere somehow, because that's the only chance I have. From these checks though, red was the winner, because red took a rook and now he can probably take a knight. So that's excellent for him, yes. So he gained 8 points out of that, while I didn't gain anything. So he closed the gap on me, but at the same time he made blue less dangerous. So blue is the guy with the most points, so it's okay. And now I played too much with my luck that he didn't see this move, so I decided to move the rook away, because I couldn't just hope that red wouldn't see it, because it was looking pretty scary. Now that blue moved the queen away, it was an excellent chance for me to move the rook back, because the rook here is really good for defense. And red is now attacking again blue, and that's excellent for me. Blue defending with the good queen against the bad queen, so if I was blue, I would just take it. And the thing is that I used this chance that I had, because now red also has to defend the queen in a sense. So, and now it's a perfect chance for me to attack one of red pieces. So gaining points again. It is true I'm now 3rd place, but somehow I'm closer to 1st place. So let's keep looking at the positives, right? And now blue is mad at red, so he starts to check red. And look at this. This is a great chance for me to gain more material. So I think I'm still doing pretty badly, especially because of my pawn structure, because red can push and promote whenever he wants. So at this point of the game, I was still feeling like I had to save this game. I had to save somehow. I had to go for 2nd place, because how can I win this now? I have only one queen. It looks impossible to win. So blue though uses the fact that now the red king is not defended anymore. And I was looking at this check. This is a pattern we saw in the last games as well, where I check over here and it's checkmate, and the king is blocking the blue queen from taking my queen. But in reality, in this case, red has this square to play to, and that would be disastrous for me, because he moves away and then blue takes my queen. So I played this move just because I want to get my queen more active, and I want to actually exploit some chances that I could have of taking pieces for free from red, because it looks like blue now is in a process of taking giving check to red. So that's why I want to have my queen maybe closer to here, to the pieces, so that I could use the fact. And here it's a double check that I didn't expect. I just moved out of the way, and fortunately my king is kind of well defended, and it can't really get checked really easily from anyone. And now I have two okay, I could play queen here if I wanted to, and it looks like checkmate, but red could play bishop in the middle, okay, and then blue would take, checkmate, I would take, and blue would win on points. It could resign and win on points, so that would have been a blunder. And now I was undecided between this move here that I was looking at or this move, because this move here would allow me to take the rook maybe at some point. But the thing is, if I move here, I can never give check to blue. While with the queen here, I can always give check to blue if I need to. That's why I decided to go for this one instead. If my queen was here, for example, I could have taken the rook. Now, I knew blue would check again, so I could have taken the rook. But here, it was better because I could give check. And now, the decisive move at game that saved me entirely, and unexpectedly, now I can move here and checkmate. Because there is no bishop anymore to put in the middle. So I was triple checking this move, and incredibly I get a check. I get a checkmate. So blue is now out of the game, and blue checks me, but it's useless because I can resign and win. So I won by only 2 points, and I looked desperate just after 10 moves. I lost both my bishops, and bishop was so important. So I hope you saw how to behave when you're down material and position. So the main thing I learned from this game is that if you're solid and if you use all of your remaining pieces to actually defend and grab pieces here and there and grab pawns and try to be as passive as possible and look very not scary to the opponents, it's very useful. So